Everyone thinks she's the hero, but little do they know, I'm the one running the show behind the throne. While she swings swords, I make the moves that actually change the world. Twin sisters, one feared, one underestimated, and together, we're unstoppable. My sister and I have competed with each other since we were little. She saved me once, so I had to help her once in return. If she went to war to defend the realm, I would govern the country in peace. If she became wealthy beyond measure, I would rise to power above all others. Want to beat me? Come on then, let's compete together.
1.
My sister and I are twins, born of the same womb, and we've been fighting each other fiercely since childhood. We clearly came into the world together, yet she weighed a full 2 pounds more than I did, so I was the weaker one. Luckily, I was smarter and learned to talk before she did. Mother said that back then my sister was so angry she babbled nonstop, and even tugged at my hair. Not to be outdone, my sister learned to walk before I did. That day, my crying echoed through the entire household. Because of my poor health, I began falling sick frequently when I was 5. At my worst, the imperial physicians from the palace came several times, but none of them could find a solution. In the end, the one who dragged me back from the gates of death was my sister. She didn't really do anything special. She just sat by my ear every day and kept nagging. You've already been lying here for 9 days. I've learned half the books the tutor taught us. Studying is the only thing you're better at than me. If you keep sleeping like this, you really won't be able to beat me anymore. I've copied 27 more pages of calligraphy than you. How many sleepless nights would it take for you to catch up? Mother cut your favorite fabric to make us new clothes. If you don't wake up soon, both outfits will be mine. Later, I heard my sister start to cry. She held my hand, her palm warm. Ru Hua, wake up. Your clothes are too small. I can't even wear them. Maybe it was because her hand was so warm that mine slowly warmed as well. I even found the strength to wipe away her tears. Stop crying. Even if you cry yourself dry, you still won't fit into them. After that illness, I recovered, but my body grew weaker and weaker. Once, my nursemaid Li Mammy casually mentioned, it's all because the eldest young lady was too strong in the womb and stole our little Mrs. Vitality. They're sisters, yet the difference between them is so big. So when it came time to hand out monthly wages, I deducted 3 strings of coins from Li Mammy and gave them to Song Mammy instead. Then I coughed lightly and said, it's because Song Mammy worked too hard this month and took all the credit from Li Mammy. They're both servants paid from the same purse, yet the difference is so big. Today's lesson was one where I had the advantage. My sister had beaten the only son of the Marquis of Zhejiang and was punished to kneel in the ancestral hall, so she couldn't come to class. Under the cover of night, I carried a food box to visit her. By candlelight, I saw that half her face was swollen just as I had expected. That young Marquis was 4 years older than my sister. She had hit him, but she hadn't gotten off unscathed either. As my sister ate the food I brought, whether because of the swelling or because she was choking, her words came out slurred. Don't cry in front of me, all right? He's in worse shape than I am. Someone with a pig mouth like his deserves to be beaten into a pig's head. My sister told father that she had hurt the young Marquis simply because she didn't like the look of him. But I knew the real reason. He had spoken arrogantly, saying that he would marry me in the future and make me wash his feet every day. Father saw through everything. He said the two of us were like the phrase cooperate without blind conformity. My sister only half understood and focused on the word compete, arguing back. Why shouldn't we compete? Of course we should compete. What's the fun in life if we don't? We competed over reading medical texts, seeing who could memorize them thoroughly first. Only later did I realize that everything she studied was related to cases treating congenital weakness. I never told her that I had been researching all kinds of remedies for bruises and injuries. As we grew older, the things my sister and I competed over were no longer just these small matters. We both understood that in any field, there could only be one strongest person, so we deliberately avoided clashing head-on. When my sister couldn't outdo me in writing essays, she turned to studying military strategy. When I couldn't match her in martial arts, I began learning how to read people's hearts and schemes. Everyone in the capital knew that the two daughters of the prime minister's household, Lu Xun and Lu Hua, were the most dazzling pair of sisters in the city and also sworn rivals who had to compete over everything. Our parents never interfered with these little disputes. Sometimes they even secretly added fuel to the fire. Father would say, "Sure, look, Ru Hua made me another pair of shoes and socks. What skillful hands she has. Are you really going to let her outdo you?" My sister would pretend to be annoyed. "She only made shoes and socks for you? That 9-panel embroidered screen she made is truly exquisite. So, why did she put it in my room instead of yours? How troublesome, truly troublesome." Mother would say, "Ru Hua, look at all this money your sister earned. Mother's private treasury keeps growing. Are you just going to watch her act so arrogantly?" I would frown slightly and reply, "Exactly. She has so much money that my own storeroom can't hold it all, so she has no choice but to put it here with you. Arrogant, truly arrogant." My sister and I look about 80% alike. Because of the remaining 20%, the capital is always arguing over which of us deserves the title of #1 beauty. Some people like my sister's bright and striking elegance, while others prefer my delicate and gentle grace. My sister and I once discussed this very issue. In the end, we came to the exact same conclusion. Those people are all rather boring, wasting time arguing over something so meaningless. On the day my sister and I came of age, the palace sent rewards. One was a double phoenix hairpin from the Empress. The other was a golden butterfly hairpin from the noble consort. Neither lady specified which gift was meant for whom. The palace eunuch simply said we were to choose for ourselves. My sister and I exchanged a glance, instantly understanding. The Empress had the third prince, the legitimate son. The noble consort had given birth to the first prince, the eldest. A hairpin is a token of betrothal. A decorative comb is part of a bride's wedding gifts. But since these were sent on our coming-of-age day and left for us to choose, there was still room to maneuver. This was merely a hint from those in power. Father held deep roots and great authority in court. It was inevitable that one daughter from our family would have to enter the palace. Judging from the situation now, it seemed the royal family wanted both of us. I looked at the 2 pieces of jewelry on the tray, quietly twisting my handkerchief. Which one should I choose? To accept would be to silently agree to my future fate. To refuse would be a grave act of disrespect. Standing shoulder to shoulder, my sister gently tugged at my sleeve, and I immediately understood.
2.
I stepped forward ahead of my sister, touching this one and looking at that one, acting exactly like someone who had never seen such fine things before, clearly loving both and unable to choose. I put one on each side of my hair and asked sweetly, "Sister, don't they look lovely on me?" My sister yanked both of them off at once, furious. "Lu Hua, these were gifts for the entire Prime Minister's household. You already have more than enough jewelry in your dressing box. Do you really have to fight with me over these 2 as well?" I instantly put on a pitiful, aggrieved expression. Sister usually wields swords and spears all day. I thought you didn't care much for dressing up. These are such rare treasures. If they went to you, it would almost be a waste. I was only thinking. You were thinking? You think far too much. With that weak body of yours, aren't you afraid they'll weigh you down so much you can't even lift your head? Wearing gold and silver requires the fortune to carry them. Don't faint after taking just a couple of steps. At just the right moment, my shrewd father appeared, playing the role of a biased old parent to perfection. Enough. You know your sister's health is poor, yet you still speak to her so harshly. What kind of elder sister are you? Then father snatched the jewelry from my sister's hands and stuffed them into mine, before sternly scolding her. You said one thing correctly. The gifts were given to the Prime Minister's household, and I am the master of this household. It's a happy occasion. You are not allowed to bully your sister any further. On the surface I looked wronged and pitiable, but inside I was blooming with joy. Come on, they're all mine. If you're capable, marry both princes to me at once. I certainly wouldn't complain about having too many. When this matter reached the palace, It was said that the empress was so angry she smashed an entire set of teaware, while the noble consort cursed loudly, calling the two of us greedy, foolish girls. Sipping the nourishing soup my sister had stewed for me, I narrowed my eyes in satisfaction. Foolish girls? What an adorable title. Yet even though they were furious, neither lady gave up on securing their sons' marriages. On the third day of the third month, the Daughters' Festival, my sister and I were summoned into the palace to admire the peach blossoms. It sounded pleasant enough, but in truth, we were probably the peach blossoms waiting to be admired. But it didn't matter. Whatever move they made, I didn't care because the scene with the golden hairpins in the first place was never meant for them. Its true purpose was to show the emperor that the Lu family had absolutely no intention of getting involved in the struggle over the throne. The empress and the noble consort had been fighting for years, each eager to strike first. Yet the gifts had been delivered to our household by the same person at the same time, and that person just happened to be a eunuch personally serving His Majesty. The emperor was clearly planning to sit back and watch the tigers fight from the mountain. More than that, he wanted to see the attitude of our Lu household. It was certain that a daughter of the Lu family would one day belong to the royal family, which was why both the empress and the noble consort wanted our support on their side. But from the emperor's point of view, he might not actually wish for his two sons to be allied by marriage with such a powerful court official. Otherwise, His Majesty could have issued an imperial marriage decree long ago. There would have been no need for the two ladies to send gifts on our coming-of-age day and then arrange flower-viewing banquets to test us so painstakingly. As expected, on the day we entered the palace maid leading the way only brought us near a small pavilion before quietly withdrawing. Unsurprisingly, inside the pavilion were the first prince and the third prince. Clearly, neither was willing to give the other a chance to be alone with us, so they ended up running into each other instead. They were holding a scroll of poetry and painting, discussing something. When they noticed us approaching, their voices suddenly grew louder, each sentence obviously hinting at something. Imperial brother, I hear the scroll is worth a fortune. Do you think the poem on it is better or the painting? The first prince sighed heavily. The poem is fine, but its tone is a bit too forceful. It's hard to truly appreciate. The painting is more beautiful. So, he dared to look down on my sister? If he couldn't handle her, he should just admit he wasn't capable. What was his approval worth anyway? Using objects to imply people and pretending to be profound, did he really think he was clever? I never saw him show such wit when writing essays. The third prince hurried to add his own irritating remark. I must disagree. The painting is beautiful, yes, but a little too delicate. I don't have the fortune to enjoy it. The poem has far more depth and charm. My sister spoke in a low voice, but every word reached my ears. We're only here to be fed a simple meal, and they already think they can order dishes? Aren't they afraid of eating themselves to death? I heard the knuckles of my sister's clenched fist cracking. If not for the sake of propriety, neither of those two brothers would have been left standing today. I pressed down on my sister's hand, signaling her to stay calm. Since nothing would come of this anyway, why waste so much energy? It was better to find a way to leave quickly. Playing with hidden meanings was so boring. I decided I might as well help them say things plainly. After all, I was such an innocent, straightforward person, never one to beat around the bush. I spoke up at once, staring straight at the third prince as tears began to fall one by one. Your Highness and I met in childhood, and Ruhua has cherished that memory to this day. Yet it seems it was only my own wishful thinking. Even if I am lacking in fortune, do I truly deserve to be disliked by Your Highness to such an extent? In truth, we had only met once when we were 7. The third prince never would have imagined that I had been deeply in love with him all this time. He likely had no romantic feelings for either of us. He simply needed to choose a wife of sufficient status. After weighing the options, he had chosen my sister. After the incident with the hairpins, everyone believed my sister and I were on bad terms. His earlier slight toward me had only been an attempt to win my sister's favor. But now he must have deeply regretted it, realizing that if he hadn't made that unnecessary move, he could have built a connection with the Lu household through me. Ru Hua, I absolutely did not mean to offend you. I am not shameless, I interrupted. Since I am not favored by your highness, how could I have the face to remain here? With that, I pulled my sister along and left, covering my face, as if in sorrow. Once we left the palace and got into the carriage, my sister carefully wiped the tear stains from my face. Really? Was there any need to put on such a show and cry over people like them? I swallowed my medicine with some tea and replied, it worked quickly and effectively, why not? If we had stayed any longer listening to their nonsense, you would have ended up hitting someone. Or, are you saying my methods embarrassed you? My sister shot me a mock glare. In warfare, the highest strategy is to defeat the enemy with plans. As long as the goal is achieved, showing weakness is only a tactic. What's embarrassing about that? I was just worried you'd cry yourself sick. I wasn't just born sick today. If I were going to die, I would have died long ago. In this lifetime, I can't compete with you in longevity anyway. Stop worrying about me and think carefully about marriage matters instead. My sister looked at me and sighed. Yes, right now His Majesty is still willing to give father some face. But once an imperial decree is issued, we won't have any say at all. In the end, we could not escape the royal family, and we also had to dispel the emperor's suspicions. Although His Majesty had many sons, how were we supposed to choose? 3. After returning home, I claimed to be bedridden with illness and had Lu Xun spread the news that I had fallen gravely ill from heartbreak because the third prince had insulted me, so serious that my life was nearly at stake. His Majesty scolded the prince for being frivolous and improper and docked his salary for 3 months. The empress also reprimanded the third prince, but of course, not because one humble subject girl had been insulted, but because she was angry he had squandered such a prime opportunity. I leaned on the noble consort's couch to bask in the sun, watching my sister wield her twin blades in the courtyard. At last, my frustration began to settle. If only there were a prince whose fate matched mine perfectly, one who could turn my peril into safety. Then, even if we weren't perfectly suited, His Majesty would have to grant the marriage, right? The swoosh of blades suddenly stopped. What do you mean by not suited? Who are you thinking of? The 11th prince, Dingyuan Marquis. I barely had time to finish when my sister dropped her swords and lunged forward in a single step. Are you out of your mind? Dingyuan Marquis is only 9 years old. I ignored her shock and stretched lazily. What's wrong with 9? There's a saying, a woman older by 3 years can hold a gold brick. Perfect. That way, we can each hold 1 brick and won't need to fight over it. My sister handed me the warehouse key, speaking earnestly. Take as many gold bricks as you want, but leave Dingyuan Marquis alone. He's still just a child. Among all the princes, Dingyuan Marquis was the lowest in status. His mother had passed away early, and he was still very young. Choosing such a husband should make His Majesty pleased. Seeing me remain silent, my sister grew anxious. Ru Hua, don't mess around. Even if this is about showing loyalty to His Majesty for a lifetime, you're going too far to avoid scandal. It's not entirely for that reason. That child has a good temperament. He's been neglected by His Majesty all these years and had no one to care for him. He's pitiful. If we support each other, life can be better for both of us. The other princes without principal consorts were either unbearably dull, swarmed with concubines, or constantly showing off recklessly, as if they were afraid they wouldn't stand out. I found myself drawn to a few of the children. Among them, Dingyuan Marquis was already one of the more sensible ones. I grasped my sister's hand. You know me, I never regret a decision once I make it. But what about you? What are your plans? There's only that dull 5th prince, Dingyuan Marquis, who's barely acceptable. A bit slow, but it's a lifetime matter. I don't want to live with someone scheming and calculating. She rarely blushed, yet she did when she said this. This isn't just acceptable, it's clearly caught her heart, not just her eyes. As for that wretched man, she's hiding her true feelings from me, puffed. The 5th prince, Dingyuan Marquis, his mother was the princess of Qi state. But a prince with foreign blood could never hope to inherit the throne. She had made her stance clear. His Majesty was indeed cautious, but not paranoid. In the future, he would trust father and the entire Prime Minister's household even more. By the end of May, under the Emperor's grace, my sister and I married into the royal family on the same day. The wedding was so grand that even more than a decade later, people still spoke of it with admiration. The tedious rituals that day made me uncomfortable. Royal rules were strict, and there was no time even to swallow a bite of food, let alone take medicine properly. I waited for my little husband to lift the veil. When the corner of the bridal cloth was lifted slightly, Dingyuan Marquis peeked at me, tilting his head. Seeing my pale face, he was so startled that he yanked the veil off completely. I almost thought he would burst into tears. Instead, he dashed over and poured me a cup of tea, carefully blowing on it before handing it to me, and comforted me. Sister, don't be afraid. I've married you, and your illness will get better. The excuse I had concocted to achieve my goal was believed completely only by this little boy. So I took the tea, sipped it, and with my other hand, gently rubbed his face. Don't be afraid either. Now that I'm married to you, no one will bully you again. Dingyuan Marquis' mother had once been a maid in the Empress's service. Sadly, after one night of imperial favor, nothing more came of it, leaving only this little pitiable boy. In the palace, where showing deference and scheming were the norm, a lowly prince who was ignored by the emperor and disliked by the empress would naturally have a hard life. It was time for a change. The one I chose could not suffer injustice. The next day, according to protocol, we went to pay respects to the empress. Dingyuan Marquis and my sister were escorted properly by the palace staff. Dingyuan Marquis and I arrived slightly later and were punished to kneel at the palace gates for disrespect. I had anticipated this. After all, I had repeatedly rejected her attempts at goodwill, blamed her son, and then married the prince she most despised. If she could tolerate all this, it would be a waste of the arrogance she had accumulated ruling the harem for so many years. I didn't argue. I knelt with Dingyuan Marquis in the harshest sunlight, calculating the time carefully. Within the limits of how long my sister could endure without coming to save me, and before my body reached its limit, I staged quite a performance. I covered Dingyuan Marquis' eyes and whispered, "Don't be afraid." Then I bit into the blood capsule I had hidden in my teeth. Fake blood sprayed out, and my formidable sister in the harem wailed and cried. My cunning father wept tears of grief in front of the court. From that moment on, I never stood properly in front of the empress again. Who could blame me? I was so weak and useless. 4. In this still uncertain succession struggle, Dingyuan Marquis naturally became the first to be eliminated. The emperor granted him a fief and the title of Prince of Ning, assigning him to govern Lingzhou and ordering him to depart on a set date. The name Lingzhou sounded pleasant, but it wasn't exactly a prosperous or strategic place. It was near the border, plagued by disasters in recent years, and constantly battered by wind and sand. With Dingyuan Marquis leaving for Lingzhou, my sister would naturally have to go as well. Before departing, she deliberately brought Dingyuan Marquis to see me. As soon as she entered, she opened her arms wide. "Ruhua, come here and give your sister a hug. It won't be embarrassing if you smear me with your snot and tears." I immediately held back my own tears. "Take your lousy man and go, no seeing you off." My sister pulled her hand back from Dingyuan Marquis and teased, "Lousy man, did you hear that? Stand farther away, you're making my sister stink." Dingyuan Marquis' reply was crisp and confident. "Yes." He looked so delighted, as if my sister's mildly annoyed command were actually the sweetest words of affection. I didn't understand it. How could someone with such a handsome face smile so goofily? Longsho was the name of the big dog my sister and I raised as children. My sister helped me sit in front of the mirror and fix my hair. "Ruhua, eat properly, take your medicine properly, sleep well. Next time I see you, you'd better have gained 10 pounds. And just like that, my sister was swept away by a silly boy. Bored, I turned my attention to Dingyuan Marquis. I taught him poetry, literature, manners, and everything I knew. This child was sweet-tongued, constantly calling, "Sister, sister." I knew it wasn't exactly proper and could invite gossip, yet I didn't stop him. When he called me sister, it felt just like calling someone else, a pleasant feeling. Sister, are you worried about fifth sister-in-law? I heard they've already reached Lingzhou and are handling disaster relief. I absentmindedly tapped the rattan stick I was holding. What's needed most in disaster relief? Money. And what does my sister never lack? Money. That's why I'm not worried about her. Dingyuan Marquis balanced the brush under his chin like a little adult and looked at me, puzzled. Then why have you been gloomy lately? I miss her. I raised the rattan stick to scare him. Don't distract me. Write properly. If I don't see the next part of this essay, I'll hit you. Half a year passed like this, and my sister and I could only communicate through letters. She wrote again, reporting that the drought had been addressed, but the implementation of new agricultural policies was extremely difficult. She had clearly given the people enough money and grain and issued strict orders for the new policies, but the yields kept decreasing. Vast amounts of silver had been poured in, as if into a bottomless pit. Silly sister. This isn't like marching an army into battle. It's not just about having enough grain, generous pay, and disciplined troops. I called Dingyuan Marquis over and showed him the letter, patiently asking, "Where do you think the problem lies?" Being a child, he furrowed his brow and examined it for a long time, then bowed to me politely. Marquis wants to learn. Teach me, sister. All people have a natural tendency to be lazy and insatiable. In times of disaster, if you give generously, the people will treat you like a goddess from heaven. But once their basic needs are met, they'll just expect more. Then they see you as a fool wasting your money. Dingyuan Marquis listened carefully, still struggling to fully understand. I picked up my dried medicine and drank it. It's like me, like this cup of medicine. If I had a healthy body, would I still endure the bitter taste? These villagers are the same. Once they're guaranteed money and grain every month, who still wants to work hard every day? My sister, generous to a fault, never thought spending money was difficult. But the human heart is a pit that money alone can never fill. I wrote back to my sister. She vented on 3 full pages, and I replied with just one sentence. Throwing firewood to put out a fire. How can it ever stop? Taking my advice, my sister went on to overhaul the agricultural system with bold measures and reaped substantial rewards. Today, Dingyuan Marquis came back from the upper study, eager to boast. Sister, I used the principles you taught me to answer the teacher's strategy question. I convinced ninth brother, and the teacher even praised me. I looked at his dirty face and the scratches on his body. What happened? He opened his mouth to explain a few times, but knew I hated lies. Nothing. Ninth brother pushed me a little. It didn't hurt. Give me your hand. Dingyuan Marquis hesitated, but I didn't comfort him. Instead, I picked up the rattan stick. Today, sister will teach you another lesson. The stick came down the first strike. Those who stand out will inevitably be toppled by the wind. The second strike. If you lack the ability to retreat unscathed, learn to hide your strengths rather than compete for fleeting glory. The third strike. Once you've shown your talent, stand firm. Don't let anyone think you're weak or easily bullied. Dingyuan Marquis neither begged for mercy nor tried to dodge. He held up both hands, letting me strike, quietly shedding little golden beads of sweat. I didn't dare hit hard. By the second strike, I had lost force. Watching him cry, I felt as if the third strike had hit my own heart. I decided to try a gentler method next time. The child looked pitiful, crying. Now, comforting him felt against my strict teacher authority, yet not comforting him made me uneasy. While I was hesitating, he suddenly leapt into my arms. Marquis will behave, sister. Don't be angry with me. I softened, stroking the top of his head. Since you have talent, you must find the right moment for the right people to notice you. That is your true skill. 5 and 6. In recent years, my sister rarely returned to the capital, and when she did, she only stayed a few days. Yet every time she came back, she would first go to Wuxiang Temple to offer incense and prayers, performing 3 kneelings and 9 bows with utmost devotion. I resented that she seemed to care more about statues and the words of spirits than about me. My sister scoffed at my complaints. You don't even know what faith truly is. Year after year, the time I spent with her remained painfully short. Dingyuan Marquis had grown to 15 and was finally allowed to attend court and participate in state affairs. After years of dormancy, his temperament had matured. He was no longer the little boy who had cried into my lap when scolded. Once, a remonstrating official angered the emperor with his counsel. In a fit of rage, the emperor wanted to have him caned to death on the spot, but Dingyuan Marquis stopped him. Of course, an official should not be executed in such a situation. In truth, after venting his anger, the emperor was waiting for someone perceptive enough to advise him. He had thought the son, whom he rarely gave a second glance, would merely babble about ancestral rules and protocols, but Dingyuan Marquis spoke with reason. The governance of the realm, the well-being of all people, gains, losses, and calamities, all depend on the counsel of a single official. To punish him today would destroy the hearts of all who wish to remonstrate. From this day, the very word, counsel, becomes hollow. If a ruler wishes to see himself clearly, he needs a mirror. If a ruler wishes to know his mistakes, he needs loyal ministers. Your Majesty is wise and will make the right judgment. The emperor re-examined Dingyuan Marquis in the hall, then pointed at him and sincerely praised my father. This son of mine is just like you when you were young. We should thank your daughter. Her insight surpasses even ours. After that day, the emperor began to test Dingyuan Marquis, assigning him more and more official duties. My little husband was not just clever with words, he handled affairs efficiently. Day and night, he labored hard and finally earned the emperor's favor, being promoted to Prince Yu, his prestige growing by the day. Yet his accomplishments were nothing compared to my sister's. Later historical records would note her the most that year. In the 30th year of Feng, enemy forces invaded. Generals defending the city fled in fear, yet my valiant and charming sister led the troops, turning the tide and protecting the land. Though I must admit, my bumbling brother-in-law contributed a little as well. Hearing of her deeds in the capital, I could almost hear the rustling of her battle robes in the distance, a freedom I longed to emulate. She would soar like an eagle. I would rise like a phoenix. No matter the future, my sister and I would always travel the same path. Our forces were weak, and it had been many years since we had a victory that pleased the emperor so much. My sister was the only female general to be granted a title since the founding of the dynasty. When my sister was honored, the emperor's rewards poured over to me as well, sometimes even overshadowing her, the rightful recipient. He feared excessive favor might spark unseemly thoughts in the sister and brother pair, yet he also feared neglect would breed resentment in a son already out of favor. Thus, he lavishly rewarded my family, and since my father was already at the height of his service, he had to go through me, his daughter-in-law. In truth, I think emperors throughout history were quite ailing in mind. They always wanted their sons to be ambitious yet brotherly, filial yet obedient, capable of governing yet uninterested in the throne. Such sons are hard to come by, let alone for an emperor with more than a dozen sons who each has a mind of their own. Sometimes I wonder, in the emperor's state, is he selecting an heir or cultivating intrigue? But regardless, for him to entrust border command is already a rare sign of trust. Our Lu family is loyal to the state. This grant of military power was the best acknowledgement of loyalty from a wise ruler. Yet in the eyes of the empress, such favor was an ever-growing threat. She had suffered losses at my hands and, being unable to interfere with my sister, turned her sights on Dingyuan Marquis. At the emperor's longevity banquet, perhaps because the name of Prince Yu is currently prominent, many guests came to toast him. Dingyuan Marquis, unable to handle the wine, left to change clothes and did not return for a long time. I tensed, quietly sending Lu Xun to investigate. She returned, pale, shaking her head. I knew it was too late. Sure enough, someone rushed to report in panic. Prince Yu had attempted a crime in the side hall of Feng Palace, threatening a life. The palace servants were trained. On the emperor's birthday, nobles gathered with gifts. Even with the greatest of excuses, such an event should never have been made public, let alone such a scandalous act. I looked at the trembling servant on the floor. Who could have made him act so recklessly? Naturally, the mistress of the harem. I signaled Panxia subtly. She slipped away in the commotion as we approached the side hall. Panxia was my father's loyal agent, skilled and clever. She knew exactly what to investigate. When we arrived, Dingyuan Marquis looked dazed, his clothes disheveled. Next to him was a familiar palace maid, her head covered in blood, already lifeless. According to the earlier servant's testimony, Dingyuan Marquis had attempted to coerce the young maid. She resisted and fatally struck a pillar. Upon careful inspection, I realized she was a maid serving the empress. Though her father held a minor office, she was still officially a government child. This matter could be either minor or catastrophic, but the crucial point was that it occurred during the emperor's birthday celebration. For a son to act so recklessly, and for someone to expose it in front of officials, how could the emperor not be furious? He kicked Dingyuan Marquis to the ground, berating him nonstop. The empress pretended to stop him, wearing the guise of a caring mother. Dingyuan Marquis finally regained his senses, knowing it was useless to argue, and could only proclaim his innocence. Amidst the chaos, Panxia, hiding by the hall door, silently mouthed 2 words to me. Palace maid pregnant. I immediately knelt before him, shielding him, tears streaming. Your Highness, I beg you, please admit it. No matter the emperor's judgment, I will stay with you. Please, admit your guilt. We can live peacefully after this. Nothing else matters. I beg you. At these words, the emperor froze, and even the empress's face fell. Helping Dingyuan Marquis refuse guilt was one thing, urging him to admit it was another. And me begging him? That was significant. Dingyuan Marquis looked at me in shock, then made his decision, bowing low. Your humble son, accept guilt without excuse. Even without knowing the full story, he trusted me completely. The emperor's gaze swept over us, shifting from anger to suspicion. People are like that. Shout in protest, and they think you're clever, admit willingly, and they suspect ulterior motives. One must make judgments contrary to fact to appear wise and decisive. The emperor's voice rang sharply. Princess Yu, do you know the charge? I ignored him, holding the empress's robe humbly. Empress, Wu Qi has admitted guilt. It is as it is, please handle it. Who could watch this and not think I had swallowed my pride in pain? The empress, caught off guard, struck me with a slap, her conscience pricked. How dare you involve yourself when your husband acts so disgracefully? Dingyuan Marquis, panicked, tried to speak, but grasped my intention. I have admitted guilt. Handle it as you see fit. Why make things difficult for my wife? I covered my face, lifting it slightly, meek and innocent. I thought this matter falls under the harem. It should be decided by the empress. I do not understand, mother. Why you are angry? Before the empress could respond, I fainted, this time not an act. The suddenness, lack of medicine, and physical strain were too much. Combined with the empress's slap, I simply could not endure. Damn it! Why am I so useless? In a situation like this, one should strike while the iron is hot. I fell into a warm embrace. He no longer called me sister. Ruhua Ruhua. Dingyuan Marquis, the path is set. You won't disappoint me, will you? Alright, dear viewers, things are about to get even more intense. Imagine trust, loyalty, and danger all colliding in the palace. Our heroes are making choices that could change everything. Stay close, because what happens next will test not only courage, but the bonds that hold them together. 7 and 8. Although Dingyuan Marquis was unlucky, he was no fool. When I woke up, he had already used the scene I staged as a springboard to create an opening, successfully clearing himself of suspicion. I drank the medicine he fed me. The emperor wouldn't easily believe you. Did Panxia get the evidence?
Yes.
Panxia searched the young maid's belongings and found medicine to preserve the pregnancy. The coroner confirmed she really was 3 months along. The empress's maid had secretly become pregnant, then mysteriously died under Prince Yu's hands. Everyone in the palace was sharp enough to notice the scheme. That's strange. The Empress could have turned the accusation around, claimed you had an affair with the maid, and silenced her to protect her reputation. In truth, I had been naive. There are always things beyond my imagination. For instance, I never expected that the child was actually third prince's. Along with the pregnancy medicine, a handwritten love letter from the crown prince was found. The Empress had no affection for a bed-hopping maid. Moreover, she needed the crown prince's legitimate wife's family's support. How could she allow a scandal to ruin that? So she used the maid's family as leverage, setting a trap. It eliminated the child and made Dingyuan Marquis take a fall, 2 birds with 1 stone. If she weren't so greedy, there would be fewer mistakes, leaving her without excuse now. I couldn't understand how someone could maneuver in the palace for decades yet remain so short-sighted. Perhaps in a way, she stayed true to her nature. I swallowed a sweet pill Dingyuan Marquis gave me to mask the bitter medicine and asked, "Did the Emperor ask why you were willing to take the blame for something you didn't do?" Seeing my weakened state, he deliberately tried to cheer me up. He stepped back, bowed, and reenacted exactly how he had answered. Feigning fear, he said, "Your Majesty, I know my lowly position and that the Empress would not favor me." The Empress covered for third prince out of maternal care, and any wrongdoing was unintended. Surely, third prince acted in ignorance, not to corrupt the palace. If my sacrifice can remove the Empress's resentment, guide the crown prince back to the right path, restore justice for your Majesty, and preserve a virtuous heir and consort, it is my greatest fortune. Every word outwardly pleaded for mercy, while inwardly fanning the flames. It was clear the Emperor would punish the Empress and her son severely. Then Dingyuan Marquis shifted tone. "I am guilty of thinking only of family and forgetting that the Emperor is sovereign. Please, Your Majesty, judge me." This was my pupil, distilled in a single speech: filial piety, devotion, loyalty, propriety, all executed perfectly. No wonder the Emperor was so moved. Whether heartfelt or staged, he was nearly brought to tears. I smiled. Before Panxia reported, I didn't even understand the full situation. At that moment, it was so urgent. When I told you to admit guilt, you actually dared to? Weren't you afraid? What if admitting it meant losing everything? Dingyuan Marquis shook his head. "I'm not afraid. Whatever you want to do, I'll follow. Even if I lose my position or influence, I won't be without everything. I still have my life, He looked me in the eyes for the last part. "I still have you, sister. With you, I fear nothing." I reached out as I had when he was a child, but he had grown too tall. Even sitting on my bed, he had to tilt his head slightly. So I only smoothed the wrinkles in his clothes, speaking as if to a child. "Sister is here. I will always stand by you." For once, I was gentle, and he suddenly turned serious, even calling my name with gravity. "Lu Hua, from now on, even if something happens to me, or even if I die, you must take your medicine on time. Do you understand?" This silly boy, truly frightened by my fainting. I teased. If I were really dying, could one pill really keep me alive? If the medicine were that miraculous, why linger on a sickbed? Dingyuan Marquis became excited. "There really is such a thing. Legends say the previous dynasty left a treasure called Dan, made from the essence of heaven and earth, curing all illness. Sister, give me time, I will find it for you. Some people actually believe that, and someone is willing to do foolish things for me. How wonderful." Soon I realized. If Dingyuan Marquis is foolish in heart, the Empress and her son are foolish in mind. Every winter, I feel especially weak, as if the frost itself freezes what little life remains in me. After lying so long, even my bones ache. Yet this year I am happy, my sister is returning. She even told father to keep it a secret as a surprise. Well, I'll reluctantly pretend not to know. Don't just stay by my side. The Emperor favors you now. You should be busy, lest people say you're slacking, I advised Dingyuan Marquis. He quickly admitted his mistake, but had no intention of changing. "Sister, I know I was wrong. But hurry and get better. Then you can use the rattan stick on me all you want." Seeing him like this, my headache worsened. The Empress may be confined, but she's not idle. You're in an advantage now, you should press it, not. Dingyuan Marquis massaged my acupoints without looking up.
Stop thinking about that.
I finally have time with you. Can't you just stay with me? I laughed hoarsely. How did he grow up to be more childlike than ever? He pouted, wanting to say more. I don't mean that. Sister, someone as smart as you. Outside, chaos erupted. My headache intensified. Panxia rushed in. The Emperor has been attacked, his fate unknown. Third Prince is seizing power under the guise of catching the assassin. The palace is in chaos. Some areas are already bloodied. I shoved Dingyuan Marquis aside, this time without negotiating. With Panxia here, don't worry. Take a squad of guards and escort soldiers to find the Emperor. Even if the worst happens, retrieve the Imperial Edict and the National Jade Seal. Since they act under the pretense of protecting the Emperor, they dare not fully besiege the Emperor's quarters. The Emperor is gravely wounded. In the palace, it is the Empress' territory. If we cannot escape, why not fight to the last? No, Dingyuan Marquis objected for the first time. They won't spare me. If you stay, you're a sitting target. I force myself to reason. In my condition, I cannot escape. Staying here is just waiting to die, like me. As long as you live, they dare not touch me. Your life is my only protection. He knew the best choice, but instinct made him unwilling to abandon me. I pressed the only hairpin I had to my neck. If my hesitation endangers you, I'll have to remove your weakness myself. Before leaving, he looked back, half resolute, half sentimental. I should have known, sister. You've always been like this. Light as a feather, fierce as fire. Recently, fevered and burning, my mind was muddled. I hadn't expected them to strike so decisively. It was madness, sheer folly. Third Prince had no real support in military. Even if he temporarily succeeded, he would tire quickly. Once rebellion was confirmed, the world would turn against him. A desperate leap without regard for height, death would be deserved. Judging by the situation, I might be the first to die. Panxia, helping me into a cloak, asked Lu Xun. With our current guards, if they breach here, how likely are we to save Miss? Panxia shook her head. If things continue deteriorating, it's only a matter of time before we are overrun. All we can do is delay them. Seal the private seal and flee with someone trustworthy. Take the evidence to my father. Without proof, any attempt to rescue will backfire. Then the rebellion becomes ours. Lu Xun almost cried. My lady, don't think so far ahead. What do we do now? With my body, I can't escape. Once outside, even the fire won't keep me alive. If it comes to that, Panxia should take you away. As for me, death is easy enough. Lu Xun cried for real. I'm not leaving. I will die with you. Panxia pulled her away, impatient. Enough nonsense. If anyone dies, it won't be you two first. I listened to the fighting outside. My heart sank. Had father received the news? What of Dingyuan Marquis? Would I see them again?
9.
When Panxia was kicked into the room, I knew Dingyuan Marquis had at least succeeded halfway, because the person coming was the third prince himself, clearly acting out of desperation. A sword was held across my throat. Ninth sister-in-law, you really married a capable husband. My situation is hopeless, but I've paved the way for that wretch. What a pity, you won't get to share in his bright future. At this point, hiding was useless. Then it depends on whether Third Prince wants to use me as a tool for venting anger, or as a bargaining chip. If I die now and go with him to the grave, it won't be unjust. The Third Prince, blinded by rage, showed no hesitation. You think I fear death? Better to die in one go than live in misery. Tell me, if I take you away, would Dingyuan Marquis kneel before me? In some ways, our situations were similar, life hanging by a thread. I decided to throw caution to the wind, showing no weakness. I want to know too. Why don't you try? Let's see whose knees give first, his or my life. The Third Prince's sword left a red mark on my neck. You're willing to die for him? True devotion. Perhaps I should just cut off your head and give it to Ninth Brother as a gift. He'd be thrilled. He dragged me along like a rag. I forced myself to endure the discomfort as I walked. Given his brutal manner, I might have died before even reaching Dingyuan Marquis. Yet fate favored me. I wasn't as fragile as I feared. At the first moment of confrontation, before I could say anything to Dingyuan Marquis, an arrow whizzed past my head, striking the third prince squarely in the forehead. It came from far away. The archer was invisible, but I knew the message had been delivered. The reinforcements came from my sister. Only my sister had the courage and archery skill to save me from danger time and again. Dingyuan Marquis rushed forward and grabbed me. He was crying. I felt a bit exasperated. Pathetic. You saw him tying me up. Were you already thinking about how to let him take the win? Dingyuan Marquis shook his head. When you told me to leave, I already decided. If he even touched you, I would kill him. I had ambushed men, but fifth sister beat me to it. I was neither moved nor surprised. I wanted to laugh. Dingyuan Marquis' eyes were full of tears, yet he looked fierce. I will kill him. Strangely, the scene felt oddly harmonious. A female voice approached. Seeing such a big man cry is creepy. Lu Xun, you've got patience, didn't even slap him. I pushed Dingyuan Marquis aside and threw myself into my sister's embrace, instantly feeling safe.
Sweetly, I said.
I knew it. Who else would save the day but our mighty female general? She inspected me from head to toe before teasing. Save the day? Big talk. Who do you think you're saving? Stop glorifying yourself. Once satisfied I was unharmed, she immediately went to handle the chaos, leaving only her cloak and wrapping me warmly. I was happy. The pain seemed lighter. I held Dingyuan Marquis' hand. Did you hear that? My sister said she didn't come to save the emperor. She came to save me. Dingyuan Marquis paused, analyzing and trying to recollect. Did she really say that? The heavy clothes pressed down, exhausting me. I ignored him. Read between the lines. A good sister's matters are none of your business. The emperor was gravely wounded. Though the third prince dared not openly station troops at the emperor's quarters, he commanded men to guard the palace gates under the pretense of protecting him, refusing the imperial doctors. Without Dingyuan Marquis' timely arrival, the consequences would have been disastrous. Though the emperor survived, his vitality was severely drained. During his convalescence, Dingyuan Marquis was appointed heir. 3 years ago, no one could have predicted that he would one day sit on the dragon throne. Even with the edict issued, doubts remained. Rumors spread that the emperor had passed, and Dingyuan Marquis had forged the succession decree. Even my father felt apprehensive about the emperor's decision, having long believed that neither of us sisters' husbands would ever touch the throne. Why fear? The emperor had a plan. He knew better than anyone how Dingyuan Marquis had changed over the years. Having governed with my father for so long, he trusted his judgment, and thus could gamble on my father's loyalty. After such chaos, he urgently needed my father to stabilize the scholar officials and my sister to defend the frontier. More importantly, with only my sister and me left in the Lu family, and with my fragile body, there would never be an heir to continue the line. Upon my death, the Lu family's prominence would end, eliminating the possibility of royal in-law interference. The emperor had calculated every step. Everyone knew I would not live long. Only those who truly loved me clung to foolish hopes. This ordeal had taken a toll on my health. Dingyuan Marquis had to attend the emperor while simultaneously caring for me. Thankfully, the weather warmed, and with both dietary and medicinal remedies, I gradually recovered, though he visibly lost weight. Even my sister commented, "You gain half a pound and he loses 3. How is this even possible? At this rate, in 3 months, you'll both be walking sickly shadows." 10 to 11. I held my sister's hand and leaned on her shoulder. This foolish boy was born to work himself to death. No amount of advice can sway him. Now that he's grown, he simply won't listen. To my surprise, my sister defended Dingyuan Marquis. Speak with conscience. He won't listen to you? Even if you handed him a rope to hang himself, he'd only wonder where would be the best feng shui spot to bless your safety. I said nothing, silently planning my future burial site, somewhere with mountains and rivers, a place that could protect those I love. They all must live well in the future. After Dingyuan Marquis ascended the throne, the first thing I did was to fill his harem. Yet when I presented him with painting after painting of beauties, for the first time he actually got angry with me. Indeed, with great power comes a harder temper. Lu Hua, have you always treated me like a brother, like a ruler, and never, even for a moment, as your husband? I never asked you why. I couldn't define my own feelings, just as I didn't fully understand my heart toward him, so I spoke objectively. You are not my brother, yet not just my husband. You are the emperor, the focus of the welfare of 10,000 people. You may have love, desire, but responsibility comes first. Dingyuan Marquis retorted. Raising children with people who don't love you, bringing forth children who may have no affection, and letting them repeat the mistakes of me and third brother. Is that responsibility? Perhaps such responsibility is just another form of selfish desire. This left me speechless. After a long moment, I could only explain dryly. You know my body. I would never risk producing heirs for you. He didn't care. There are plenty of royal children. One adoption is enough. I never intended to change anything over this. What matters is their ability to govern the realm, not their bloodline with me. I'm 6 years older than you.
He pressed on.
It's not the first day we met. I've always known. My lifespan is limited. His intensity softened, transforming into something called gentleness. Sister, year after year, I will always stay with you. Looking at this earnest, passionate young man, I for the first time understood the meaning of insecurity. Perhaps it wasn't insecurity, but a sick person's yearning and helplessness for health. Someone who does not know when they might die fears losing whatever they have. The late emperor chose poorly, and how stubbornly devoted Dingyuan Marquis was. I too had chosen poorly. Why did I marry someone who would make my heart flutter? Still, I held his hand. Since it was so, I would embrace the mistakes again.
Fine.
You've always listened to me. Let me follow once. If you want to be a negligent emperor, I will bear the title of a treacherous empress. The emperor left the 6 palaces idle, refusing selections, and the empress produced no heirs. Such things were monumental in any era. Yet surprisingly few ministers objected. After all, who would quarrel with someone near death? I would vacate this position eventually, so why would they need to intervene? No one yet believed Dingyuan Marquis would stay with me for life. Still, someone could not resist. A palace maid was subtly placed near Dingyuan Marquis. Her appearance, temperament, even her demeanor, resembled mine. The difference, she was healthy and radiant, like spring sunlight, impossible not to delight in. Dingyuan Marquis noticed her, considered carefully, and with one decisive gesture, no female creature ever appeared again in his sacred halls. This solved both symptoms and root cause. After all, when it comes to heirs, none of them would ever try to present a male in place of the emperor. What I could not have imagined was how despicable these self-proclaimed scholars could be. They attacked me, slandering my sister convincingly. They claimed my involvement in governance as empress was reckless, and that my sister falsely claimed military achievements to glorify herself. Ridiculous as it was, the so-called governance was the 10 relief strategies I had recently presented to Dingyuan Marquis. These plans were already producing results, saving tens of thousands in Yuyang from disaster. My sister's achievements were undeniable. Time and again she fought at the front lines, bearing countless scars. Every drop of her blood planted seeds, forming walls to defend the borders. Yet to others, it all seemed distorted. They say she's just a woman. How could she govern? A hen in the morning must harbor evil intent. Really? You think the empress herself devised all these strategies? The Lu family has many advisors. Most likely these plans were someone else's work, and she claimed them to appear virtuous. Yes, a woman in the inner palace. How could she have such insight? Ah, power is a wonderful thing. They doubted my sister's competence because she was a woman. Empress, delicate and gentle. How capable could her sister be? Defending the frontier. Could she do that? These achievements must belong to Prince Ning. She married him. The Lu family can only beg him for favors, right? Yes, even if the achievements were hers, she should aid her husband wholeheartedly. A woman should not claw for power or glory. She's not virtuous. Just a woman. Just a woman. When these words reached my ears, Duan Wuqi was adjusting my hairpin. He straightened it and asked clearly, "What should we do with those spreading this filth, sister?" I lowered my eyes. Half the censorate thinks this way. My father is still head of civil officials, yet they dare such recklessness. Everyone knows the Lu family's honor is beyond rumor. Those spreading lies are not trying to unseat my father. They believe, deep down, that women are unfit for high office and must submit obediently. Otherwise, they deserve censure and ridicule. Rumors can be stopped. But how to cut off human prejudice? Duan Wuqi sensed my worry and took my shoulders. "Sister, do you wish to attend court?" I was stunned. There were precedents of women listening behind curtains when a young emperor could not govern, but never of an adult emperor allowing his empress to step directly onto the court floor. This sounded almost sacrilegious, yet it came from the emperor himself. Looking into the mirror, he said firmly, "Sister, you taught me that actions and words depend on their purpose, not on gender or status. Without you, there would be no me. Ru Hua, you are no less capable than any man." I met his gaze. Duan Wuqi looked straight into my eyes and said clearly, "You should not endure these slanders simply because you are a woman. That's unfair. Sister, go. I am right behind you." From that moment, I no longer saw him as a child. Perhaps in the eyes of the world, he was not the perfect ruler. But he possessed a pure heart, independent thought, and deep wisdom. To him, the person capable of ruling the empire need not be of his blood, and the one who could bring welfare need not be a man. The man before me was my sovereign, my beloved husband, and the most perfect work of my life. Never had I been so certain of my heart. I loved him, trusted him, respected him. I would fight alongside him. Amidst the uproar of ridiculous rumors, I, dressed in the empress's ceremonial robes, took Duan Wuqi's hand and stepped, hand in hand, onto the court floor.
12.
Those who saw me stride boldly onto the court were instantly enraged. As if I refused to retreat, they would simply crash headfirst onto the floor. My father snorted. "I've heard gold is soft, probably won't kill anyone. Are you all hoping to knock your heads into gilded powder and get rich?" Implied meaning, all talk, no spine. Don't flatter yourselves. I seated myself calmly beside Duan Wuqi, composed. "If you ministers have such concerns, why whisper behind my back? I am here now, and I hope you will not withhold your counsel." Young people are easily impatient. The first to leap forward was a newly risen court noble, the recent third-place scholar, righteous indignation written all over him. The empress's conduct is improper, claiming fame deceitfully, disregarding ancestral teachings. Moreover, how can women have a place in the court? Such behavior is unworthy of being a mother to the realm. I was neither anxious nor angry. Asked him in return, "Tell me, how have I claimed fame deceitfully? How have I disrespected ancestral teachings? I am the legitimate, proper empress, standing at the center of the empire. Who is more right than I to stand by the emperor's side?" The famously eloquent third-place scholar was rendered speechless. These past days, rumors about my sister and me had been everywhere, but where was the evidence? None. Sometimes, a light, careless word can freeze hearts like snow, burying countless bones unseen. They wielded rumor as a blade, attempting to strip away our glory, stain our names, and kill invisibly. But matters without real proof, once exposed to the sunlight, can only vanish into dust. I insisted on that bright daylight, to shatter all secrecy, illuminating everything with clarity, letting justice take root in every heart. Age brings wisdom, and thick skin comes with it. One young speaker fell, another elder took his place. Elder Zhang, aged and nearly breathless with excitement, exclaimed, "No matter how exalted the empress, how can she reverse the order of heaven and earth?" The dignity of the court cannot be defiled by a woman. I nodded in agreement. Indeed, the court is exalted, women humble. By that reasoning, the battlefield is even more sacred. If the hall cannot hold women, then let Elder Zhang personally lead the army and bring my sister back. Elder Zhang's face turned red with rage. Arrogant. If I were 20 years younger, Duan Wuqi lightly intercepted. If Minister Zhang were 20 years younger, perhaps he could barely serve under the great female general as a cook. With the emperor's obvious backing, subsequent remarks became more measured. The empress is a model for all people. Today, she acts against propriety. If all women were to follow, the realm would be in danger. Therefore, we request. I ask sincerely. What if all women were like me? What if all were like my sister? They would read and understand, carve out their own world. They would take up arms to defend their land. They would find themselves and become themselves. I could not see what was wrong with that. The sages have clear teachings. Women should observe the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, serving husband and raising children. The empress and the great female general are exceptional, unmatched by ordinary people. Common women are shallow and limited. They can only sew and wash, unworthy of reading the sages' books. The speaker, surnamed Zhang, came from a humble background. 10 years of study earned him this path to office. He forgot that before entering service, he was just an ordinary man. Ordinary men could change fate through study, but for ordinary women, there seemed only the path of ordinariness. Duan Wuqi waved and presented him with a plain screen, saying, "Since women's work is so easy in your view, try it yourself. See if embroidery needles are truly easier to handle than a brush." They blinded women with fabricated rules, yet claimed women were dull, unworthy of learning. Minister Zhang was red-faced with shame. I said sternly, "I hear you were born poor, lost your father young, and your mother supported you with laundry and sewing so you could read and learn. Have you considered that she, too, is one of those common women you speak of? You all depend on women to be born, to sustain life, even to prosper. And now you seek to trample women into dust, underfoot. How can your heart bear it? How can you face your conscience?" The hall fell silent. Not a sound stirred. I stepped down the stairs and knelt before the throne. I, your servant, humbly request the emperor to establish schools for women, to provide the daughters of the realm a place to stand. In the court, I was not his wife, but a petitioner for the people. Duan Wuqi was not merely my husband, but the sovereign reshaping the world. My father also knelt, petitioning the emperor to grant it. Though not all followed him, many did. This time, fewer than 1/10 of the ministers voiced support. The rest remained silent, waiting for the emperor's reply. Granted. That single word would change history, reshape the fate of tens of thousands. Of course, we were not naive enough to think that establishing schools for women could instantly overturn centuries of entrenched views. The school was a spark. One day, it would pass flame to flame, endlessly. Even if I could not see it, I would hope. Though I cannot reach the end, my heart yearns for it. 13. They say twins share a connected fate, but I suspect that might not be true. Because just as I achieved complete victory, a terrible piece of news came from my sister. She had been ambushed on the battlefield, now missing, her life unknown. I had never felt so helpless, because I had always thought I would never have to face this. I had always assumed that if the day of parting ever came, the one to go first would be me, the frail one. I even considered what words I should leave behind for Wuqi, for my sister, for my parents, so that they could live on more easily. But I never imagined that my sister, so bold, so alive, riding into battle with her sword held high, capable of cutting down armies, could ever give us a moment's worry. I took my medicinal soup and fell into a deep sleep late that night, dreaming. In my dream, my sister stood in the shadows, silent, yet her eyes were sharp as a hawk's, filled with determination to claim victory. In that gaze, I understood. She was lying in wait. So when I awoke, I felt inexplicably calm. I just knew she was safe. She was waiting too, waiting to be reunited with me. Duan Wuqi didn't understand how I could seem like a different person after just one night. I didn't know how to explain the mysterious bond between twins, so I only said, "That's my sister. She is blessed. She is destined to survive every danger." My sister never let me down. On the battlefield, she struck like a divine warrior, leading her guards to crush the enemy's main forces. The border was secured. Peace would last at least 10 years. The spirited female general achieved unprecedented merit, and no one dared underestimate women again. Pan Xia was so excited that her blood boiled. She insisted on joining my sister's army. "Are you sure? Once you go, you can't come back to me." Pan Xia, an honest child, asked seriously, "Can I split my time? Half a year there, half a year here?"
What?
Did she want to be a general for 6 months and a palace maid for 6 months? That's too much. She wanted both salaries. I gave her an example. Some people sleep with both eyes open, some with both closed. Have you ever seen someone sleep with one eye open and one closed? Pan Xia immediately closed one eye. "I can practice." I waved my hand. "When my sister returns, you go with her. Don't embarrass me. No coming back." The day my sister returned from the campaign, Duan Wuqi and I met her at the city gate. I finally saw her again, her face, so like mine. I said, "Sister, I hope you are well." She dismounted and saluted properly, showing the discipline of a subject. When I went to help her, I heard her familiar voice. "Well, hope I am well? Why are you out in this wind? Aren't you afraid of being blown away?" I held her hand. "Not afraid. Sister will hold on to me." We were born connected, like branches from the same tree. Even thousands of miles apart, we would never be separated. It was the 3rd month since the girls' school opened, a bright, spring day. Duan Wuqi ran to me joyfully, as if all his life's obsession had finally found its rightful place. We could finally pursue the happiness that belonged to us. Because he had found the legendary Huishi pill, capable of restoring life from the brink of death. The timing was perfect. It coincided with my birthday, as if heaven itself favored me, sending a gift. Duan Wuqi held me tightly. "Ru Hua, we can be together now, right? You don't have to worry about leaving me ever again, right?" He had always known my fear. His joy wasn't just about finally having all my time for himself. It was because I no longer had to be constrained by chronic illness, no longer had to secretly look up at those born with boundless vitality. I could live as a normal person. Such a simple wish was, to me, extravagant. He loved me, understood me, and did the impossible for me. But I had raised this child wrong. From the moment he lifted my veil, his joys and sorrows were never for himself. They were all because of me. How could that be right? I would be reluctant to let go. I am the patient. I know best. No miraculous elixir exists in this world. If it did, why would it survive until now? After all, who does not want to live? So when the imperial physicians declared that the Huishi pill did not have the legendary effects, at most it could extend my life by 3 years, I was not sad. Instead, I comforted Duan Wuqi. He held me. "Ru Hua, sometimes I think it would have been better if you had never appeared. But more often, I am grateful for you. So can I continue to be grateful forever?" I didn't know, nor could I promise. I could only hold him and soothe him gently, just like when we were children. "It's all right. Life is as it should be. 3 years, 3 days, even just 1 day. I have stolen this day for us. Wuqi, I am still very happy. Who says 1 day isn't enough to be together? Every day you love me is my 10,000 years." Li Ru Shi, Epilogue. I am the first female general of this dynasty. I had all the qualities a general in the storybook should have, beloved by the people, achieving deeds that could overshadow even the emperor, yet betrayed by colleagues. Even with all this glory, the emperor never doubted me. Instead, he cherished me even more. I lived boldly, stepping over the stubborn, surviving righteously, and achieving a happy ending, annoying countless people along the way. At 70, living quietly, retired, I felt it necessary to thank the emperor. After all, the relationship we had, ruler and subject, was a remarkable tale. He entrusted me with military power, and I guarded the borders. For decades, we worked together, creating a peaceful era. When I entered the palace to pay respects, Duan Wuqi stared at me for a long time. I knew he was looking through me, seeing someone else. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, I would be lost in thought. If my little painting had lived to see this day, it would have looked like me, though her eyebrows would be finer, her eyes more curved, her skin whiter. I had come to thank him today, but he ignored my words, instead snorting. Lu Xun, I've kept this in for a long time. I hated you. Wherever she was, she never saw anyone else. Later, it was I who stayed with her the longest. After so many years, he was always so petty. I didn't care. Yet you treated me kindly all this time? He stopped looking at me, speaking lightly, as if to a young girl he adored, while I sought credit. Because my sister trusted and loved you, I respect and cherish you. She said you are blessed, destined to survive every danger. I will protect your health and safety year after year. I could reasonably suspect that if little Hua had said I was talented enough to be a female emperor, Duan Wuqi might have abdicated the throne to me on the spot. If the late emperor knew his carefully chosen heir was like this, he would probably rise from his tomb and beat him with his own thigh bone. Thinking this, I almost laughed. Yet in my mind rang his words. My sister said you are blessed, destined to survive every danger. I will protect your health and safety year after year. Blessed, destined to survive every danger. I had heard these words before, years ago, in a battle where I was gravely wounded and unconscious. That was the first time little Hua entered my dreams since our separation. She stood afar, smiling at me. My sister, blessed and destined to survive every danger. It was then I longed to believe in spirits and deities. Perhaps little Hua was watching me from heaven. But I had long stopped believing in gods, because the wishes I once prayed for had never come true. Every year I visited Wuxiang Temple, asking not for peace, wealth, or honor, just one thing. Lu Hua, live a long life.
The end.
I loved imagining these two sisters, one commanding the battlefield, the other plotting behind the scenes. Writing this story reminded me how power can wear many faces, and sometimes the quiet ones pull the strings. Which sister strategy would you follow?